Hello YouTube, Own Soldier 86, right back with you to talk about the Mystic Cave Zone level and kind of decompiling all the different elements that I have in this particular level so that you can kind of understand my thought process behind making this, and hopefully you can use some of these elements for your own level making. So what I figured I would do is just take some of these pieces a little bit at a time and both talk about the texturing and the components, as well as the idea behind the level layout and the design. So first of all, I'll talk about this pillar of, or I guess pyramid of boxes. Originally, I had intended these boxes to be sort of in this configuration. And the reason why that is because that's how they exist in Sonic 2, in the original Mystic Cave Zone. They kind of look like this, and they rotate around. And the idea is that Sonic and Tails are trying to avoid getting crushed by these boxes. But if we keep in this configuration, the disadvantage for Smash Brothers, as you can see, is that we've taken up a significant portion of the level. There's not a lot of area that the characters can traverse, in which we can stay within the confines of the original DK level back here. And if we keep expanding this outward and outward and outward, we're going to start running into problems where characters might fall off the edge much easier. So I decided, yeah, since we're not going to utilize this space very well, what I'll do instead is kind of put these boxes in sort of a pyramid configuration, very close to each other. And that way we're not wasting any space. That's one of the main things you need to think about with these levels too, is you need to get a lot done in a very limited amount of space. So with this pyramid configuration, we have, in fact, made the space a lot less. Plus, we've also designed sort of an interesting concept. We have kind of a king of the hill, if you will, where some players can be up here and defend the high ground from players that might be on these lower platforms. And if we spawn a whole bunch of items up here, it might make it more worthwhile for the characters to be up here versus down here. So that's kind of a little fun concept behind this particular play area. And if we have a significant play area on the left, we also want to make sure that we balance it out with something on the right. And we're keeping within the same proportions. I mean, this is slightly taller than this area over here, but if you look, it's roughly about the same width on each side. And so that's something I wanted to keep in mind too. We don't want to have disproportioned areas, play areas, otherwise it'll look kind of disjointed. So I'll go into a little bit more details on the right-hand side. But something else I wanted to mention too is that if you watched my last video, when I turned this around, you might have noticed all of these white squares on the back. And the issue with the white squares is that I did not choose to texture anything in the back. And the reason why that is because there will be no reason why the character will ever see textures on the back sides of these particular components. And if we actually compare that to the DK level over here, you can see, like, for instance, this is a tree right here. I know this is white, but in the game it is a tree. And if you look on the back of this, it isn't even rendered on the back side. And or these back sides of these platforms for that matter. And the reason why that is because the game is trying to save space. So we're trying to save as much processing power as we can. And so by not rendering these pieces on the back, which the character will never see, we're in fact saving a lot of extra memory. So when you're making these, make sure you keep that in mind. Don't just go crazy and texture everything. Keep in mind that the back sides, and in fact also the underneath, for instance, this box, you'll never see underneath the box. So therefore, if we look underneath it, it is also white. There will be no reason why the character will ever need to see underneath that box because it's stacked on top of the other boxes. In the next video, we'll take a little bit closer look at some of the other components, like these 2D textures.